Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
It's a Monday, and oh my goodness, big moment for me. November 3rd, glad you're here with us, and this is the start of the college basketball season. We'll talk more about that in a bit. So yeah, you've got baseball's now over. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. But you've got NFL, college football, college basketball going on, hockey, of course, women's college basketball starting. It is fun times. If you're like me, it is fun times. This weekend, we did nothing but watch sports. Back and forth between the Tennessee, Oklahoma, and World Series Game 7, which was a thriller. Again, we'll get more into that in a moment. Great guests here coming up in today's show. Shannon Griffith is standing by here, joining us in about 3 minutes to talk Indiana Hoosiers football. The Hoosiers, listen, I don't know. If you're not a believer, I don't know what it's going to take. You are Maximus in the ring yelling, "Are you not entertained?" They are just blowing teams out, and good teams. Maryland's a good football team. Stumbled early the first couple of drives, and then boom, went from there. We'll talk to him about the Hoosiers, still undefeated, still number 2 in the country, heading toward a showdown next month with Ohio State. And a bit later, we'll talk with Alexis Cubit of the Louisville Courier-Journal. Hey, the Cardinals, all of a sudden, they're ranked in the top 15. They have a path now to the ACC championship game with Georgia Tech's loss. Now, there's a whole bunch of teams right now with one loss. Miami, Clemson, not among them. We'll talk about all that here coming up. NFL, some news coming up here from Sunday, but first off, news from earlier today. The Eagles with yet another trade. They land Jalen Phillips in a deal they made with Miami to try to shore up their defense. They can pick up the outside linebacker Phillips. They'll get a 2026 third-round draft pick. This all according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. So Phillips this season, 3 sacks in 9 games. 26 sacks in his career, all 5 of them with Miami. Former first-round pick to become a free agent after the season. But the defending Super Bowl champions, remember, they already picked up cornerbacks Michael Carter II and Jair Alexander in separate deals last week, and now trying to do something to strengthen a defense that currently is 23rd in the NFL in total defense and 24th in sacks. So, again, another big trade here. Philadelphia trying to do what they can to repeat as Super Bowl champs. So there's that. Now, on the field, and what a Sunday it was in the NFL. If you have any idea who is winning the Super Bowl after this week, let us know, because it looks like there's at least 10 teams that have what it takes to win it this year. Let's start in Buffalo. The 10th matchup of Josh Allen and his Bills against Patrick Mahomes and his Chiefs. Coming into the game, KC had been playing with their weapons intact, looking like they were ready for another regular season role. And 13 days ago, the Bills got embarrassed on a Monday night in Atlanta, dropping their second straight game, and had folks wondering just how bad their defense was. Well, yesterday, the tables turned. The Bills' defense putting the brakes on Mahomes and coming up with a key 28-21 win in Orchard Park. Mahomes finishing with his worst completion percentage. 44.1 is all he did. 15 of 34 for 250. Also was picked off once. The 2-time NFL MVP previously had never finished a regular season game completing less than half his passes over his 9-year career. That's how consistent he's been, and that's how special the Bills' defense was yesterday. They played a major role, sacking him 3 times, hitting him 15 times more. Meanwhile, Allen did his part, a touchdown pass and 2 short rushing TDs. Allen and Mahomes have now split their 10 career meetings, 5-5, but Mahomes, the key stat here, 4-0 against Allen in the playoffs. Bad night for Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn, and the Commanders. Seattle came into the nation's capital and spanked the Commanders 38-14. Sam Darnold, the one-time rookie bust, has found himself these last 2 seasons. He was 16 for 16 in the first half for 282 yards and 4 scores as Seattle built a 31-7 lead. Late in the game, though, things getting worse for Washington. Their second-year star quarterback Daniels tossed to the ground, his elbow and arm bent backwards. Dislocated elbow is what they're saying now. Carted off the field with his elbow and arm immobilized. Tough news for them. Wonder if he can come back this year. That's going to be tough. The Bears had the best ending of the weekend, and this was a crazy, crazy game between two okay teams right now, okay? Caleb Williams connecting with Colston Loveland for a 58-yard touchdown with 17 seconds left to give the Bears a 47-42 victory in a wild game that featured 3 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes and 2 lead changes in the final minute. Joe Flacco, at 40 years old, threw for a career high in yardage, took the Bengals down the field for the go-ahead score that appeared to be the game winner. And by the way, the Bengals defense, great quote I saw later from the running back, Caleb Brown, WTF, he said, basically, close the blankened door. The guy who hit Loveland on that touchdown pass, it was only just for a first down to get him to field goal range. Instead, he never, ever tried to, he never hit him with his arms. He just went into it with his shoulder and just bumped him. And wasn't enough to knock him down, and he ran the rest of the way for the touchdown. If he puts any arms out, he trips him up, tackles him. Maybe it's a field goal. Maybe they win, but at least you have a shot at it. Crazy, unbelievable. By the way, great stat I saw in that game. The Bengals in the last 2 years have now lost 6 games when scoring 30 points or more. 42 points yesterday, and they lost. Okay, Bears, by the way, now 5-3, right in the thick of things in the NFC North playoff race. That race got tighter thanks to the top 2 teams in the division both going down. The Packers, their own worst enemy in Green Bay, penalties and turnovers as the Panthers get the 16-13 win over Green Bay in a game which saw the Pack outgain Carolina by 100 yards, but never put them away. Minnesota came into yesterday's game with Detroit having lost 3 or 4 and being blown out in 2 of those games. J.J. McCarthy coming back after missing 5 weeks with a high ankle sprain. He stole the show. McCarthy, 2 TD passes, ran for a score. Vikings over Detroit 27-24. The NFC, now 4 teams all at 500 or better and separated by only a game and a half in the standings. Now, the last 2 weeks have not been good for the Steelers or their high-priced defense, having been run over in losses to Cincinnati and Green Bay coming into yesterday's contest with the best team in the league, the 7-1 Colts. Sunday, the Steelers defense again looked like the steel curtain of the 70s, harassing Daniel Jones all day, leading to 6 Indianapolis turnovers on the way to a much-needed 27-20 win. The hottest team in the league right now is Denver. Comeback time once again for the Broncos. Bo Nix tossing 2 TD passes. Will Lutz with a 34-yard field goal as time expired. Denver, 6 straight wins, 18-15 over the Texans. Denver now 4-0 when trailing entering the fourth quarter. They become the cardiac kids of the NFL. Meanwhile, in college football, top 25, it looks top 5, top 6 look a lot the same, just exactly the same like it did last week. But after this weekend's games, we'll talk more about this in a bit, beginning to solidify in terms of those teams we're going to see as part of the conversation when the first CFP rankings comes out and those that are not. We already kind of see that line. Some teams already fall off. Joining us now, talk about one of the teams that feels like it is a if there's a lock for the college football playoff, this is one of them, the Indiana Hoosiers. Coach Shannon Griffith is joining us once again, lead football analyst for thehoosier.com. Coach, always good to have you here on the show.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. This Indiana team, we were talking here in the break before we started. Look, Ohio State's the defending champ. They're number 1 in the nation. I think Indiana is right there with them. And let me tell you something, folks, write down the date here at about a month when these 2 teams that appear on a collision course because they don't play each other during the regular season because of the way the scheduling falls in the Big Ten championship game. It looks like it's going to be number 1 versus 2 between these 2 teams. Let's see what happens in the Michigan game with Ohio State. But I think right now these 2 teams, no question, they're the best teams in college football today.
Yeah, I think that's reflected a little bit in the 11 votes that Indiana got for first number 1 ranking this past week of AP rankings. They got 11 votes in it. And I think some people would look at it if you say, okay, let's look at their resume. Indiana has 2 wins against 2 top 10 teams. Illinois at the time was ranked 9th. And then on the road at Oregon in a hostile environment, they went out there and beat, I think Oregon at that time was number 2 in the country, if I'm not mistaken. And those are the 2 big wins that they've had. And then if you compare that to Ohio State, they beat Texas, and that's really about it. And Texas, although at that time, I think was maybe the number 1 ranked team in preseason.
They were.
But they kind of fell off the face of the map there for better part of the year. Now they've come back a little stronger here lately. But if you say who's got the better resume based upon ranked team wins, Indiana actually has a better resume on that respect. And is actually reflected in ESPN's FPI, the FPI rankings, where they have the resume and efficiency, but takes in all accounts strength of record, strength of schedule, things like that. Last time I looked, Indiana was number one in that ranking, but that changes daily and on the drop of a dime. And I still don't know how that works. But again, yeah, I think there's an argument there that could say Indiana is the number one ranked team in the country based upon, the black and white of the matter.
Yeah. Well, just the scoring. I saw a stat this weekend. 5th game already this season when they've scored 50 points or more. 56 against Kennesaw State, 73 against Indiana State, FCS opponent, 63 against Illinois. That still was one of the nastiest boat racings I've seen on primetime TV in a while. That was just devastating what they did to the Illini. 56 against UCLA last week, and then this past weekend, 55 against Maryland. This is just, an offensive juggernaut. And to your point, defensively, what they do, look, because of all the points.
Yeah, the defense, again, this year under Brian Haynes, the defensive coordinator, has been outstanding. They were outstanding again on Saturday against what I would call a sneaky good Maryland team based upon, some of this team had come into that game, Maryland. They had lost 3 games by a total of 10 points. They legitimately could have been 7-0 heading into this game this past weekend. And really good defense and, a really good offense with the young kid. I think it's Washington, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it was kind of one of those games you're kind of a little bit nervous about because Maryland and Coach Loxley, they're a type of team that can put points on the board. Indiana just suffocated them. They got 5 turnovers. They returned a fumble for a touchdown. And Indiana didn't start off great. Mendoza threw a bad interception on the first drive of the game. They come out the second drive of the game, and they had negative 16 yards. So they had a pick and a bad second drive in that span, and the defense held Maryland just to 3 points. So they kind of weathered that storm. And then Indiana on their third possession went like 95-yard on a 95-yard drive and scored. And that kind of started the scoring barrage as they just kind of opened it up from there. But defense, unbelievable. I think Indiana this year on turnovers has gotten, I think it's like 58 points off of turnovers this season, which was a stat that I really look at because that tells you about the opportunistic type of ball club and, in that respect. So I do think that the defense Saturday was superb and Indiana's offense struggled, but came on.
Yeah. And now you've got 3 games this weekend at Penn State, next week versus Wisconsin, and then a week off before it's the rivalry game at Purdue to finish the season. Indiana heavily ranked in all 3 of these. What's it like? I just want to ask for a moment to cover and follow a team that is having unprecedented success. Never before double-digit win season before last year. And yet 11 wins last year. It appears on the way to 12 regular season wins this year. What is that like for you to be there as a part of someone who's following this program for a long time and to see this kind of instant success?
Yeah. I was in college football coaching for 28 years. And I've never seen the turnaround that has happened at Indiana like it has now. In my time, we didn't have the portal or NIL or things of that nature. Indiana has prepared for this time period under the new guidelines in terms of the NIL, now the profit sharing. Scott Dolson, the AD, and Pam Winton made a commitment prior to this even going the way it is to really invest in football. And I mean, invest in salaries, facilities, and all that. So this is a byproduct of their foresight to do the right things and make Indiana a competitive Big Ten football team because they had so many years of mediocrity in that respect. Close, but never got over the hump. But it's one of those things that it's fun to watch the fan base become as excited about football. When you think of Indiana, you mostly jump to the round ball when you talk about fan base and excitement. The state of Indiana right now, when it comes to Coach Cignetti and these Indiana Hoosiers, are just over the top with excitement. And you can actually, you can feel it. I mean, that's how exciting it's been for 2 seasons now.
Yeah, no question about that. Talking with Shannon Griffith, again, he's the lead football analyst for thehoosier.com. Coach has been on the show before. You mentioned all this, and it gets back to the man at the top of the program, Curt Cignetti. When he came on, I remember chuckling and loving what he said. Someone asked about his credentials, and he said something along the lines of, I win, Google me.
Yeah.
And you look up, he has that Indiana, Pennsylvania Division II, and then Elon, and then, of course, James Madison already was winning. He continued that, and then brings to Bloomington now. It was clear that there is no way in the world the Indiana University brass wasn't going to let him even take a phone call from Penn State once James Franklin was ousted. Of course, he's a Pennsylvania native, has ties there. The money they put on the table, and to do so within days.
Yeah.
I think that college football should understand that Indiana's plans to be a college football power for the next decade, to put that kind of money on the table that quickly.
Yeah. That was actually discussed between Coach Scott Dolson and Pam Whitten, the AD, on the plane trip back from Oregon. That Scott Dolson, the AD, again, having the foresight to know that the crazy season was getting ready to start. He had the hottest name brand coach in the country. And there was definitely going to be suitors. There just was. I mean, you don't look at his record and say, oh, well, we don't need him. He's quirky. He's this. But like you said, he wins. And that's why Dolson hired him, because he had won. Yeah. And so they did a great job and paid him quite well. And I'm sure they're going to try to wrap their 2 coordinators up, because those 2, in my mind, are probably worth a discussion at some of these jobs based upon what they've done in their careers, not just at Indiana, but Elon and James Madison as well. Brian Haynes has had a defense ranked in the top 5 since he's been started being the defensive coordinator at James Madison's about 3 years ago. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with those 2, because there were suitors a year ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, if you know football, those 2 are key. We've talked about Clemson and how they never get able to get back up to that national championship level. Well, both coordinators went and took head coaching jobs, especially in Virginia and Oklahoma. So, I mean, there's a reason for that. The coordinators are huge to the success. There's no question. Cignetti, what is it about him that makes you, like you just said, you've been in coaching, you've been a coach for 28 years. What is it about Curt Cignetti that makes him so successful? Because clearly he has changed the game. Other programs now, like, wait a minute, well, our guy's been there 4 years.
Yeah.
We're not winning. Let's get rid of him in October.
Yeah, well, there's some truth to the fact that the schools around the country look at Indiana and see the success that they've had in a short period of time, 24 months to be exact, and are scratching their head as why they can't do it at a school they feel may be better suited. But,
yeah,
I tell you what, he's very genuine. Some people think he's cocky or anything like that. I don't think that's furthest from the truth. I think he's confident in what he does, but the kids just respond to him, and he has a great way of communicating his message from the top down, from him to the coaches, to the kids, administration, about how they approach each and every day. And he has a plan that he's always talked about. You've heard him talk about a blueprint. He's taken that blueprint and implemented it in a fashion that has put Indiana in the national spotlight for the better part of 2 years. But him as the coach, he's probably one of the best motivators in the sense of how he communicates his message and keeps the kids grounded. I've never seen anybody like that. And I think some of the things that he learned from Nick Saban in some respects has, rubbed off on Coach Cignetti, and he's brought that mindset that Saban has. And I just think he's one of those guys that has a great way of getting his message across in an era of time that's always the $64,000 question is how we're going to communicate things. So that's what surprises me the most about him from the outside looking in.
Yeah. Or in this day and age, the $64 million question since
right.
Inflation, Coach. Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. One, I can't let you go without talking. Obviously, Indiana basketball today being the day everything tips off. Hoosiers don't open until Wednesday, but it's been a while since Indiana basketball has had that level of success that's expected in Bloomington. Hard to believe we're closing in on 25 years since the last Final Four, the Mike Davis run when they lost to Maryland for the title game. 64-52 back in Indiana back in 2002. Tell us about the Hoosiers this year. I know a lot of changes there, hit the portal. What does Indiana look to bring here this year, and how can they improve?
Well, I think Coach DeFries is kind of in some ways a little bit like Cignetti in the sense that he's proven that he can win about every place he's been. Now, does that immediately translate into Indiana becoming a, 60, the 64th team in the tourney? Time will tell. A lot of people think they're going to be a mid-level Big Ten team this year. But I like what I've seen from him. I think you're going to see an aggressive, scrappy defensive team, as well as a team that pushes the ball down the court. I think they've got some guys that can really shoot it, and we'll see. But I think you're going to get an honest effort on a consistent basis with this basketball team that we haven't seen in that realm for quite some time, because I think that's been one of the pitfalls that Indiana's seen, that they just don't get a consistent effort every night. I think that changes with DeFries. I think that's the mindset that he brings, set of toughness and a idea that he wants his basketball team to be scrappy, hardworking, and push the tempo. So I think you'll see that out of him. Now, whether that, like I said, translates into W's, we'll see. But I like what I've seen. And just as much as there has been excitement about Indiana football, the two together, it's about ready to blow the state off the map because of, hey, if Cignetti can do this in this period of time, maybe Coach DeFries can do the same thing. Now, I don't necessarily want to be Coach DeFries because he's kind of having to live up to the expectations of somebody that did it quickly, but I think he's the right guy at the right time, and we'll find out real quick on Wednesday as they start off the season. But I think the biggest thing for this week is Penn State for Indiana. That game, Penn State just doesn't, because they lost Coach Franklin, and I know they lost a tough game at Iowa, and then, of course, Saturday to Ohio State. They still have the same good players that everybody thought they were going to be a really good team this year. They just did not all of a sudden get bad. They've got those good players. Indiana will have a huge challenge going into Happy Valley, a place that they've not played too well over the years. So this game is going to be a tough one for Indiana to get beyond, and they got to play their A game again.
Yeah. Indiana hoops at home against Alabama A&M Wednesday. They take on Marquette on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, that'll be a big one.
Yeah, very, very big test early on. Still have Louisville, Kentucky later on in December before they get into the meat of Big Ten play. And then, of course, like you said, this weekend, Penn State, they're 0-5 right now. But like you said, we all know they're better than an 0-5 team. So when can they put it together? Who knows? But I'm a believer when Indiana is doing a Curt Cignetti. I think they're going to make a deep run in January. That's just my opinion. Coach, always good to talk with you and get your insights. Appreciate your time here today. And good luck with this season. I know we'll be talking again.
I'm more than happy to come back, you guys. Appreciate you for having me.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks so much. Once again, Shannon Griffith joining us. He is the lead football analyst for thehoosier.com. It is number 2 Indiana. Like you mentioned, 11 first-place votes, highest ranking in program history, trying to go to 10-0 this weekend as they take on the Nittany Lions. Okay, well, good. We're just getting started. So much more to come up here on the Sports IQ here on this Monday. We'll get back to it after this.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
Attention travelers. Next Tuesday, a major hurricane will cause complete chaos throughout the city. Food, water, and phone service will be in short supply. There will likely be panic citywide. Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here to the show. As we talked about, it is college basketball season. And listen, if you guys, I'm going to pretend that you have not listened to the show or you haven't followed me at all in my career at CNN and Turner Sports and WNBA and all the other stuff. I am a college basketball junkie. I do this thing every year called the Dirty Dozen, where it's a formula I put together. And I can tell you when the brackets come out, I can tell you the 12 teams that will not win the national title. And it's missed only once. I think we're 13-1. Goes back to 2009. We didn't do it for 2 years because of the COVID years. One, there wasn't a tournament. And the next year, everyone played an imbalanced schedule. And so the math didn't work. And instead of trying to just me pick teams, that wouldn't be it because I'm not picking the teams. It's the Matrix picks the teams. We didn't do it. But the only team that's broken that, I think I mentioned to you before, was UConn. Back 3 years ago. The first UConn title, they broke the mode that they didn't fit the criteria. And they should have been dirty, and yet they won. So it's really cool. That's how deep I get into the weeds with college basketball. So if you're a Hoops fan, be sure you join us because we'll be talking hoops probably about every day. So tonight is officially on the calendar. It is the first day of the 2025-2026 season, which means my sleep goes down by about an hour. I don't sleep much anyway. I'll sleep even less between now and April moving forward. 19 of the top 25 in the AP in action tonight. A great doubleheader out in Vegas on TNT, True TV. You know, Turner Sports doing a lot more college basketball in the regular season with no NBA. Number 3, Florida taking on 13th ranked Arizona in the opener at 7 o'clock Eastern. And then 9th ranked BYU and their rookie star freshman AJ DeBansa taking on Villanova. That's the 9:30 game out of the T-Mobile Arena. Also, 5th-ranked St. John's and home against Quinnipiac. That's at 6:30. UConn starts against Southern, and number 2 Houston opens the season against Lehigh. In the women's, 13 of the top 25 in action tonight, including 2nd-ranked South Carolina takes on Grand Canyon, coming all the way from Arizona to take on the Gamecocks. Number 4 Texas is taking on Incarnate Word. Number 3, UCLA, a late game, San Diego State and UCLA. And the one game against that has 2 ranked teams facing each other, Duke and Baylor, number 7 and number 16 in the AP top 25. And we talked a moment ago we're going to talk here to Alexis Cubit here in a moment about Louisville. She's coming up next. Louisville women, by the way, they open tomorrow night against number 1 defending champion UConn. That game being played in Maryland in a neutral site. But again, college hoops is here. And so with that, quick timeout. We're going to talk with Alexis Cubit here up next, the Louisville Courier-Journal, about Louisville football. And we'll get into basketball too. It's the Sports IQ.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
As we mentioned, boy, so much sports going on right now. I'm just going crazy. College football against college basketball starting, talking about that. Louisville football. And we mentioned here earlier talking to Shannon Griffith about how we're beginning now to see some of the teams kind of, the teams that are not going to be part of the conversation beginning to fall off. This is a big elimination weekend, if you will, and teams that are not going to be part of the conversation. and teams that will. And one team that is right back squarely in the talk and now has a path to get into the college football playoff is Louisville, ranked 14th this week. They're going to host Cal coming up here on Saturday. Joining us once again, she's a Louisville beat writer with the Louisville Courier-Journal, is Alexis Cubit. Welcome back to the show, Alexis. Good to see you.
Thanks, Larry. Good to see you too.
Yeah, tell me this Cardinals team right now. It's going right along, and with obviously Clemson at the beginning, and boy, what's happening down there? There's another conversation. Miami all of a sudden coming back down to earth. Georgia Tech, their first loss, they get stunned on the road at NC State. All of a sudden, right there, Louisville is right there, 7-1, 4-1 in conference play. What have the Cardinals done this year under Jeff Brohm to get to this point?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing you have to notice is that this defense is heads above where they were last year. I mean, they're, top 10, top 20 in several statistical categories among FBS teams. So they give them a chance. Had it not been for, the defensive touchdowns that teams have had, they probably would be top 10 scoring defense in the country, because they specifically have not given up very many points. So that their passing defense has improved significantly. They've got a lot of really good DBs. So that's the first thing I would say. Offensively, they do enough to win. They still have some things that they struggle with. But when you've got guys like, Chris Bell and Colin Lacey there in the passing game, huge players. And then Colin Lacey in special teams. He's got 2 punt returns for touchdowns, almost had another one this past weekend, just like right there at it. The running game has been a disappointment, but not because of anything that they did, but just the injuries. It's been really, really disappointing to see 2 huge stars in Isaac Brown and Duke Watson struggle with injuries as much as they have. Duke hasn't even played in almost a month. And so you just hate that part of it because they were on track to have, really, really big sophomore seasons. Obviously, Isaac is still doing really well, just had his 5th 100-yard rushing game, but now he's potentially out for a while after, did not look good on the sideline there on Saturday. So I think the thing with this team is it's more of the intangibles that they have that have kept them in games and allowed them to have, 4 comeback wins this season. Maybe not things that show up statistically, but just that grit, that toughness, that belief, and that, we're going to win this game, I think has been huge for them this season, and pulling out, wins at Miami. That was their first ever win at Virginia Tech this past week. They hadn't been back there since the 90s, when literally everybody on this staff, or not staff, but on this team was born, which is insane to think about. But yeah, just that grit and toughness, and that, that willpower that allows them to play a little better in the second half.
And this Louisville team, really, you look back in the last 12 months, only 2 losses. The loss at Stanford last year in November, and then the overtime loss, like you mentioned, at number 20 for Virginia. They were 24th in the country back then on October 24th. Otherwise, it's been a perfect time. You do this, too, while replacing the quarterback there, Tyler Shuck, going on to the NFL, New Orleans Saints. Jeff Brohm now in his 3rd season since coming over from Purdue and coming back home, the former Cardinals quarterback. How has he ignited this team, not only offensively, but obviously, even like you said, even having a defense now that's one to contend with?
Yeah, I think I would just love to get into Jeff Brom's mind and even see that playbook, because you've heard so much about the offensive playbook and how complex it is and all the different plays. And, I had a chance to talk to Payne Durham, who was the last tight end to be coached by Jeff at Purdue. And he was like, there are still plays that, we never ran that I remember, or, if you had just see the trick plays, like, you'd be amazed. So there's a reason why he's considered one of the greatest offensive minds in football at any level in the country. He's just extremely intelligent, football wise and in general. And so I think he also I think that hometown appeal really helps too, because these guys know he's played here before. He knows what it's like to have to go through, the daily hustle and bustle. Is a little different now than it was in the 90s with all the NIL and portal and all that other stuff. But at the base of it, he gets it and he knows how to just really, pull out the best in these guys. And I think that's been extremely important.
Yeah. Question for you, and this is one a little bit off topic, but I happen to know um, Vince Marrow personally, who went from being the associate head coach at rival Kentucky. Louisville had come after him before. Jeff Brohm had come after him before to go to Purdue, and he's an Ohio native. Spent some time in the NFL. He's incredibly charismatic. Not only does he know football, he knows people, and it's just was a big part of Kentucky's recruiting. He goes to Louisville, and all of a sudden Louisville begins winning much bigger. I know sometimes that people say, well, it's the head coach, whatever, but can you talk about the impact that you may or may not have seen that he has made in this program in a few months, I believe he's like an AD role there, if I'm not mistaken, but
the GM. Yep.
The GM. Okay. His personality is so infectious. Has that worked its way into the locker room yet up there?
I think so. I mean, you even just as you know, Vince has a certain swag about him where it's just like, okay, you know exactly where he is on the field.
Yeah.
You see him campaigning and politicking with different people and really, even his social media presence. The coaching staff isn't really what I would consider active on social media, but you'll see Vince, tweeting out or retweeting a scripture or, retweeting, some like pop culture thing, so he's very in tune with the players. He's very in tune with the world around him. And I think that creates a sense of relatability. And even not even just the current players, but prospective players, recruits. He's a guy that can really, like you say, charismatic. He can talk to different people and be like, hey, here's what, this is going to be. He knows people from the league. So he's just kind of that guy that really, was that missing piece for Louisville. And I think, yeah, you can definitely tell this team has a different vibe to it with Vince. And he said, I'm going to shake some stuff up when I get here. And I think he is a man who delivers on his promises.
Yeah. Well, I think you can see with Kentucky, they finally got their first SEC win at Auburn Saturday night, and pushed Hugh Freeze out the door as a result.
Yeah.
But I think there's a different vibe in this Kentucky team as well. There's something missing, and I think it's Vince Marrow. So it's good for U of L to get him in. 4 games left here on the schedule here in November. Cal, Clemson, SMU, and then Kentucky. What does this team have to do, in your opinion, to close it out and run the table and be 11-1 and be that team that's headed for a possible berth in the ACC title game?
Consistency is key. And it sounds cliche, but I think that's the biggest thing is they just need to be consistent. They seem to be a second half team. First half has been a little slow. They've been outscoring their opponents in the second half over the past 3 games by almost 20 points combined. So I think if they just kind of get a faster start, that would enable them to not have to be the comeback cards. They can be the cruising cards, which we love. Defense, I think defensively, they just have to keep doing what they're doing. I think they found something that works for them with just the different rotations and just the talent level there. Offensively, obviously, they're going to need to get healthy in the running back room. And if they can't do that, I think Miller's going to have to step up a lot more than what he has. Show a little more poise, better decision-making. And then just the O-line as well has not been very good this year. I mean, they got a boost with Javonte Sylvester coming back, which was huge. But even, against Virginia Tech, there are some things where it's like, we might want to clean this up a little bit, protect Miller a little better so he's not running for his life for most of the game. So I think they'll beat Cal. I think at this point, anybody could beat Clemson. SMU is the game where I'm kind of looking like that potentially could be a loss, just because obviously they lost to SMU last year. Now you're going into Ford Stadium. Dallas is obviously a great city, so stay focused. All those kind of things. They struggle with mobile quarterbacks. They did have had some success against mobile quarterbacks this year, so that bodes well defensively and just feeling a little more confident in that. But it just really depends on how they travel and those type of things. But no, and it's crazy to think about because I think I had them at like 9-3, 10-2 coming into the season. But pretty much after that Miami win, I was like, we definitely could be talking about an 11-1 team. So that's exciting. Jeff has established history every single season that he's been here. First year, get the first win at Miami, and then the ACC championship appearance for the first time ever. Last year, first win ever over Clemson. And then this year, first win ever at Virginia Tech. So, why not add a college playoff appearance to that?
Exactly. They got to keep winning, though. 5-0 Virginia
Yes.
sitting atop the conference. There are 5 other teams currently with 1 loss, Louisville being one of those. And obviously they lose the tiebreak to Virginia, but still there's a chance there for them to get in if they keep winning, and that's exciting. I want to talk a little Louisville basketball. Both teams ranked in the AP top 25. Louisville men opening tonight versus South Carolina State. Talk about what Coach has done there in his second season, taking over from Kenny Payne. It's just amazing how he's turned this program around very quickly.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing with Pat is just he seems to have an infectious energy that, he's able to motivate the guys. Obviously, coming from a mid-major program or a non-power 4.5, are we calling it now, conference team. So just the recruiting aspect as well, getting guys in here, winning those battles, winning the portal. I think that's been huge for them. And last year, obviously, the ACC was down just a little bit. And so that kind of helped with getting the program going as far as getting those wins. I know a lot of people were thinking the sky was falling when they lost that exhibition game against Kansas, but it's Kansas. So I don't put too much stock into that. They obviously had another exhibition game and won that one. So, that's positive. But yeah, and I think he's got these guys, right where they want them, and expectations are definitely high this season with just the level of talent and players that they have on this roster. So, obviously Case of Pryor's back. That's huge. So yeah, it'll be a very interesting year just to see what that follow-up to last year is going to be. Hopefully getting, more than a first round NCAA appearance.
Right. Yeah. Take more than that. Yeah. And it's funny too about fan bases and the exhibition games and how they ride the waves. Kentucky beat Purdue in their exhibition. You would have thought they went to the Final Four. It just was big win. It's good, but it's an exhibition. Just pump the brakes.
Right.
Got a long way to go to get to March. Exactly. But a good schedule coming up. Speaking of, you take on Kentucky next week. I believe it's up at the Yum Center in Louisville. Also games against Arkansas and Tennessee in the non-con before getting into ACC play. Early game in conference against Duke early in January. The Louisville women, meanwhile, coming in ranked, I believe, 20th here in the country. What do the Cardinals bring this season?
My gosh. They bring, I started calling Jeff the Greg Popovich of women's basketball because you've got, 5 different continents represented on this team.
Wow.
With just the players that they have. I think that this team was going to be good. I have a lot of faith in them. They were able to return the bulk of their freshman class, which was obviously ranked 6th in the country last year as far as that recruiting class. Added some very much needed pieces to that front court after Olivia Cochran graduated. Nyla Harris transferred to North Carolina. Laura Ziegler is going to be huge. We got to see them practice a little bit, and the way she just kind of moves on the court is insane. I think she's going to adjust well to this program and to the ACC. Alif Istanbuloglu. This is her 3rd year now. I think she's more adjusted. And I do think that with Jeff having coached the Turkey FIBA, I believe it was, Turkey's national team this summer with Alif, he's taken some of those pieces of, the European basketball and incorporated it with this team. They've always been a physical, tough group. That's just the culture that Jeff has implemented. But I think now with having more of those players that played in leagues that actually emphasize that, as well as, incorporating that speed that he likes to play with, I think this team is going to make some noise. It may not look like it at first because you've got, my God, tomorrow against UConn, the defending champions. I don't care if Paige is gone. Like, AZ Fun is still there. You've got Dawn in South Carolina in a month. You got Tennessee. Like, this non-conference schedule, I don't know what Jeff was thinking. It is crazy. But I do think, it's going to be a good experience, trial by fire. in preparing for an ACC that, I mean, I think they've had someone in the Final Four, not last year, but each of the 2 or 3 years prior to that. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting season. I don't think they're going to, be world beaters at first, just because, like I said, that non-conference schedule is crazy. Oh, yeah, and then Kentucky, the rivalry game is going to more than likely be, a top 20, top 25 matchup. So, it's definitely going to probably look rough at first, but I definitely still think they'll make noise in the ACC.
Yeah, what a way to start for the defending champs. Like you said, tomorrow night, number 1 UConn and 20th ranked Louisville. That game being played, by the way, in Annapolis, Maryland, part of the Armed Forces Classic, 5:30 p.m. tip on ESPN. We'll all be watching. Alexis, you've got a lot to cover up there. Fun times to be covering Louisville sports. Enjoy this football ride, and I know we'll be talking with you again here pretty soon.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you so much. I definitely will.
All right, sounds good. Okay, Alexis Cubit joining us once again. She's a beat writer for Louisville sports, football especially, but she wears a lot of hats for them, and she does them all so well for the Courier-Journal up there in Louisville. And again, big game this weekend, taking on Cal. 1 loss on the season. Louisville, chance to go to 11-1. And again, what a job Jeff Brohm has done there with the Cardinals, the team he once played for a while back. We're not going to get into how old he is, but a while back. I remember when he was in high school. That's how old I am. Anyway, all right, we got more to come. Sports IQ. Stay with us after this.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
Right back here on the show, Sports IQ. Joining with producer Tony now. And Tony, we're talking about the latest AP Top 25 coming out. As we mentioned earlier, talking to Shannon, this is one of those that you're beginning to see now, kind of a separation where those teams, they're in the top 8, top 10. Are you really strong contenders? Still some teams there to be in the conversation. But it's getting close now with some elimination games, if you will, this weekend and more coming up this following Saturday.
Yeah, November is really where we separate the haves from the have-nots in college football, right? You're going to figure out who's got a shot, who really doesn't have a shot. And, look, the AP poll is all about talk, and it doesn't really play a part. Yeah, it might play a part when that committee meets and takes something into consideration. And, we've made no bones about it. I'm a Notre Dame fan on this show. I'm sorry, AP voters. That team did not deserve a 2-bump shot in the AP poll for that win against Boston College. That was not a quality win. That's a bad team in Boston College. And if not for some great performances by Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame might have gotten beat. That's not a 2-bump worthy. And then to drop Georgia Tech by 8 spots for losing, it was a bad loss, losing up at NC State, but 8 spots, you're really not giving them credit for what they've done so far this season. So a little disappointed in some of the poll voting going on this week.
Yeah, kind of crazy. They're the lowest ranked Power 4 team with 1 loss with that, to your point. And you're looking right now, it appears right now the ACC may wind up being, at this moment, only a 1-bid league. We talked about Virginia being the lone undefeated, 5 other teams now with 1 loss. Can you get could a 2-loss team, a Louisville or a Georgia Tech, if they lose the second game, say they go to the title game and lose, could they get in? To your point, the AP doesn't matter. It's the college football playoff rankings that's going to matter.
Right. I just don't think there's enough quality wins to be had out there among the ACC teams at this point going in. And the fact that Miami is not among them is an indictment of Mario Cristobal. This is a league that's ripe for the taking. they are supposed to be the best team in the league. They spent a ton of money on Carson Beck, threw 2 more interceptions this past weekend. I don't know. Something's off there in Miami that isn't quite right. This team should be better than that, especially with that defense. So we saw another coaching change. Hugh Freeze is out in Auburn. Could we see even more the last couple weeks of the season? Yeah. And Larry, I've lined up Danny Sheridan to help us break it all down later in the week. So,
oh boy, get Danny on tap. That'll be good. That'll be good. Get him in there. Yeah, there's no question. Hugh Freeze already out. Kentucky getting its first win in the SEC over Auburn, 10-3. I mean, Auburn couldn't score a touchdown. Couldn't score one touchdown down on the Plains. You weren't up at I still call it Commonwealth Stadium. You weren't up at Kroger Field. Down in the Plains, they couldn't get it done. So you're exactly right. But the top 5 remained the same: Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon still at 6, Ole Miss still at 7. And again, like you said, the big game this weekend is number 8 BYU and number 9 Texas Tech there in the Big 12 to determine the current leader there in that conference. Okay, our moment of awe is up next.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
Time now for a moment of awe, and it goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars kicker, Cam Little, with a thunderous leg, a new record Sunday, a 68-yard field goal in the first half as time expired. Longest field goal in NFL history. And listen, it might have been good from 70. I mean, he had some juice to that out in Vegas. Hats off to Cam Little, gets our moment of awe. Thanks to our guests as well. Shannon Griffith stopping by, Alexis Cubit. And as always, we appreciate you making this thing go. It's a Sports IQ. Make it a great Monday, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.